The Tonys are coming up on Sunday, June 9th on CBS, and with me today is Amanda Pekoe, founder and CEO of the Pekoe Group, a full-service marketing firm for Broadway and off-Broadway theater, and a good source for the Tonys this year. So what is this season like for you, Amanda?
This season in the theater industry is crazy. Everyone is frantic and trying to get the message out about their Tony nominations for their shows, and audiences are filling the theaters to see everything that they can before the Tonys are live on air.
And how did you get involved with theater and the Tonys?
I started out as an actress and absolutely loved the theater business and loved performing, but then I learned that there was this other side of the theater industry, which was the performing arts management, and I dipped my toe in that water. I got really intrigued and really hooked, and I haven't looked back ever since. And so I've been doing marketing and management in theater for about 11 years now and loving every minute of it.
So what kind of shows do you think are most interesting for you that the Pekoe Group deals with?
I pretty much love all theater. I'm a total theater geek, but the most exciting shows for me are the shows that have a really interesting story that I can connect to and that I know that broad audiences can connect with as well. And that just creates so much buzz and so much word of mouth with audiences. For example, Kinky Boots is such a great story, and audiences have just been raving about that show and talking about it on social media to their friends and telling everyone that they meet that they need to see it, and they're going back and seeing it over and over again because the story really connects with so many people on so many levels. And those are the most exciting types of projects to work on, I think.
Kinky Boots is up for Best Musical this year, along with a few shows that are based on film and books.
That's true. Kinky Boots, Matilda, the musical, A Christmas Story, and Bring It On.
I mean, that's quite competition because they already seem to have their marketing plan already in place.
That's a really good point. I think that anything that we can do in this industry to cultivate new audiences and really connect with audiences in a big way is extremely important for the future of Broadway and theater in general. Whenever there are shows that are based on films or on books or anything that people are already aware of, it really helps to get them seeing Broadway shows, because in order for Broadway and theater to live on, we need to be reaching not just the super Broadway enthusiasts who see everything that's on stage every season, but we need to get the people who are kind of sort of interested in seeing theater and get them into the seats and get them hooked with something that they already know and are familiar with.
Of course, and this year it's Matilda the musical and A Christmas Story, which is completely timeless, and Bring It On, which inspired 2 sequels.
That's right.
So, although I always think the original is the best one, I always like the dynamics and the gymnastics of that piece, that particular performance.
Oh, yeah, and the Broadway production was so beautiful. There was so much high energy, and the night that I saw it, the audience was just filled with preteens and teenage girls and their parents, and the whole entire theater was just a roar with young girls screaming and loving every minute of it.
I can imagine, and also I think Bring It On is a different dynamic for a musical, because dancing is an athletic sort of artistry, but to actually see cheering on stage as part of a musical is very different.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And also, to add to that, Pippin, which is also nominated, but in the Best Revival of a Musical category, that's got the sort of circus, acrobatic element to that musical as well, and that's really beautiful and unique to see on stage in a Broadway theater.
And we were talking about the marketing of the Tonys, and speaking of which, there are a number of nominations that involve celebrities. Every year it seems that there's a few celebrities that sneak into the Tonys. Catherine Zeta-Jones involved. Now it's this year, it's with Sigourney Weaver and Tom Hanks and Molly Shannon. But I don't think a show is good unless you have a fabulous story, too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the wonderful thing that's happening on Broadway is it is attracting high-caliber stars from outside of the stage, from film and television, and that has really given Broadway a nice awareness boost to the world because people are so familiar with these screen actors. What's really unique about live theater is the magic behind it. Every performance is different. It's live, so you don't get takes the way you do on screen, and you're playing to a full house of people who are hanging on your every word, and the energy in the room in a Broadway theater is so high that I think it must be such an amazing and unique and profound experience for these non-stage actors to come to the stage and have that experience.
So we talked about how celebrities are attracted to this venue. How do you sell a show on its story even though it's got a big name?
Big names definitely help with the marketing and the selling of a show. What we try to do in the Broadway marketing world is sell everything that we can in order to get a nice cross-section of audience members into the theater and buying the tickets. So when we have a high-caliber star in the production, that is amazing for marketing because it opens up our market to a whole new group of people who might not ordinarily have come to see that particular show. The story is really a vehicle to be able to explain why certain stars are in those roles. So Tom Hanks is really just perfect in Lucky Guy, and David Hyde Pierce is absolutely hilarious in Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. And when you see those performances, you really understand why those performers are in those roles in these particular plays.
And you were talking about Pippin and how that has returned to the stage. I know they had some nominations, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is involved as well. I mean, how do you think the actual shows get chosen to be revived?
It all goes to the producers. So the lead producers on a project are the people who really get inspired and rally a certain project and then pull together their team of investors and marketers and managers to be involved in that particular show. So it originates with a lead producer or a group of lead producers who spearhead the entire project. And it's got to be something that they truly believe in. Oftentimes, it's a show that the producers themselves loved when they were children, or a film that they saw as a child and they knew that there was a stage adaptation and they wanted to bring it back to the stage and share it with thousands upon thousands of other people and really give that gift to the masses, people who they don't know. For revivals, especially this season, there are several revivals that speak to the family audience and also are good for tourist audiences as well. So when you're thinking about producing a show, you want to think about how many different types of audiences will be attracted to the show that you're looking to produce. And revivals are great for that because tourists from all over the entire world will come because they're familiar with the story and with the piece. And with Cinderella or Pippin or Annie, those are just three absolutely incredible musicals for families and children. So it allows them to attract more of an audience because people are buying more than just one ticket in that instance. They're buying a family 4-pack, for example.
Annie is a sellout. Annie has been around everywhere this year because of its anniversary.
Yes, and it's so wonderful to have a Charles Strauss project also being revived on stage. And Annie is just one of those musicals that everyone knows and everyone performs in elementary school, and people are going to see that in their community theaters and regional theaters, and everyone knows the music and everyone has seen the movie, and so it's a really accessible show, and also the story and the music is absolutely phenomenal. And
oh, yes. It brings you right back.
The story is so accessible, and that's what makes that particular musical so successful.
Now, I know people want to know how do the Tonys make their nominations, and ultimately, how do they choose their winners?
So it's all very official. There is a nominating committee, so it can be anywhere between 15 people and 42 people who are appointed by the Tony Awards Administration Committee. They appoint these people to be a part of the nominating committee, and these nominating committee members, they need to have current or previous professional or educational experience in the theater community. They need to represent a range of expertise in the theater community and also commit to seeing every single eligible production. So every show that opens within a specific season that could potentially be eligible to be nominated, this small nominating committee needs to commit to seeing every single play and musical that year so that they can really give nominations from seeing the show. And they cannot be a member of a print or electronic media outlet either. So the Tony Awards Administration Committee nominates between 15 and 42 people who meet this criteria very strictly, and they see every show and then they put the shows up for nominations. The voters are a different group of people. The voters, I think, are made up of a couple of hundred people, and they're members of the governing boards of the Actors Equity Association, the Dramatists Guild, the Stage Directors and Choreographers Society, and the United Scenic Artists Union. And then they also are made up of board of directors and the advisory board of the Wing, and voting members of the Broadway League, and members of the Theatrical Council of the Casting Society of America, and officers of the Musicians Union, the local 802 union, and on and on. Members of the nominating committee as well are a part of that group, and then people who are members of the New York Drama Critics Circle and the National Association of Talent Representatives. So it's a whole bunch of professionals within the industry of all different unions and societies that come together to make up this, I think it's about 200 people who vote, and they need to see all of the productions and then make their votes for their favorites.
So as far as the Tonys, who do you think is going to win this year? And what do you think are the ingredients for a successful show? There's a tremendous amount of shows that may not be seen without that extra push sometimes with Tonys.
Well, I think that Kinky Boots is going to win for Best Musical. That's just my opinion.
That's courageous.
Everyone loves that show. It has such a great message. The music, I mean, Cyndi Lauper and Harvey Fierstein together as a dynamic duo. That music leaving the theater, I still remember, and I saw the show several weeks ago. I still can think of the tunes of the music. So it's really a story and music that sticks in your head. And I would say that for Best Revival of a Musical, I would say probably my opinion would be Pippin, because it is a revival, but it is a completely new take on that performance, and having those circus elements as a part of the choreography, I think, has really taken that show, that production, up to a whole new level in a way that people are not expecting and not used to thinking of Pippin, and I think that alone would definitely be the influencer in winning the Best Revival of a Musical this year.
Again, it's up against Cinderella and Annie, two classics.
Yeah, and The Mystery of Edwin Drood. And you know, the four of them are all such spectacular productions. I loved all of them. I just think that seeing the way Pippin was presented was just such a beautiful surprise to me, and I would imagine that so many other people agree.
Well, Pippin leaves so much room for interpretation, much like Godspell does.
Yes, absolutely.
My final question would be, what do you think about Neil Patrick Harris hosting again this year? He's tremendous every year.
Neil Patrick Harris, and the theater community has embraced Neil Patrick Harris so tremendously. He's so funny. He's very sharp. He has great humor. He's a total theater enthusiast, and I think also because he's got this kind of silly magic influence. You know, he's a magician, and he's kind of kooky and quirky Absolutely. I think that all just really works for the Tonys. And he was the host in 2009, and then in 2011 and 2012, and this year again. We had the 1 year in 2010 with Sean Hayes, and he was wonderful also. He's completely adorable. And I think that Neil Patrick Harris, he has that sort of...
He's got a lot of charisma.
Yeah, he's got that charm and that humor that really works well in a Broadway setting. I can't wait for Neil Patrick Harris to be on stage in a Broadway show. I'm looking forward to that day.
As far as the whole Neil Patrick Harris thing goes, I really do think he is a marketing deal in itself. I mean, people are just going to go just to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, everyone wants to know what he's got up his sleeve. He's such a silly guy, so I'm really excited to see what he does this year.
I am Jeannie Grant. Many thanks to Amanda Pekoe, CEO and founder of the Pekoe Group, a full-service marketing firm for Broadway and off-Broadway theater. You can find them online at thepekoegroup.com. That's ThePekoe Group